the first thing I do with everybody that I meet is help them understand what their money buys. So it's too long of a conversation to do right here, but know that if you are curious about franchising, I know the number one reason you're coming is money. The number one reason you're leaving without a business is money. I've been doing this for 23 years, so we are going to talk about money with real clarity. Money in and money out, and then we're going to relate that to your net worth and your cash resources.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?
Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Kim Daly. She's one of America's top franchise consultants and has been helping people realize their dreams of business ownership through franchising for over 20 years. So as I said, Kim, I like to keep the intro brief because it's going to sound much better coming from your mouth. So first though, thank you for coming on the show today. Thanks for taking the time out. I learned before we hit record that your son's about to start at UNH, where I went to undergrad, so that's pretty exciting. Really cool. So thank you for being here, and let's hear about you. Let's hear about your story.
Thank you, Jason. And it is a small world. We're only 1 degree of separation from UNH together. Right. I love it. I love that you're a fellow New Englander. Well, so thank you for allowing me to be a guest and to share my story. So as you mentioned, I am 20 years in the franchising industry as what's called a franchise consultant, meaning people find me when they're at some transitional point in their life, thinking about like, how do I get out of this miserable 9-to-5, or how do I build a third revenue stream while keeping my 9-to-5? How do I build greater wealth, greater passion, more time freedom for my future? And they think about a franchise. So a lot of times we know the word franchise, but do we really know what that means and what it could afford to us? So as a franchise consultant, I help people. I meet them at that fork in the road, educate them about the true value proposition of a franchise. I coach their mindset on how to move through this process, because for many people, this is the first and biggest leap into the unknown they've ever made, right? Next to investing in your home, this is like the next biggest investment people make is in a business. And they only know the horror stories and the, bad statistics of business failure until they come to Kim Daly, and I can really educate them on those statistics and how they really don't apply here in franchising. But then more importantly, Jason, what people can really do to ensure their own success. So I work with people for about 1 to 2 months to help guide them through their due diligence process to hopefully say yes and go on and become a franchisee. That's what I do. And additionally, I'll just say this. I'm also an alternative investor. I became financially free back in 2022. And once I learned about alternative investing, it was around 2018. I actually learned of it through one of my candidates who was 36 and had an $8 million net worth. And so I said to him, do you mind me asking, did you inherit money? Like, I've never seen a net worth like this on such a young guy. And he was like, no, like, I'm an alternative investor. And I'm like, tell me more. Well, that candidate, I call him my GOAT. I changed his life by helping him invest in a franchise. He changed my life by opening my eyes to the world of alternative investing. And I started moving my money in different ways. And within 4 years, had created enough totally passive income that I could call myself financially free. So I love to share my story. I believe the business is the heart of the alternative investing portfolio because it produces the fastest and usually greatest amount of cash that then we can deploy into these passive investments. And that's how we create the velocity with the money.
That is that is gold right off the start. Just that exact framework, I think, is in sort of whether it's business, even if it's your W-2 job. Maybe you've got a high paying W-2 job, but essentially taking some piece of active income and then deploying it into passive income to sort of change the ratio of where your money comes from and watch it grow over time. Like that's just it. So I love that framework right from the beginning. Something that I'm trying to decide where I want to start with this because I think there's so much here to talk about. But let's start with kind of the franchising world. I mentioned to you before we started recording, and I've talked about it on the podcast. Business acquisition is definitely on my radar. I've been trying to make that happen for a while here. I'm interested to hear kind of the differences. I haven't really delved into franchises. I've looked at, kind of the mom and pop, locally owned sort of stuff. I haven't really looked at franchises, and I'd love to kind of get your take on why specifically franchises in terms of business acquisition, and maybe you can point out some of the differences there for people that are considering this path.
I love it. Look, Jason, first, let me just say this. There's so many ways to build wealth, right? Looking at a private business for sale is awesome, but usually it requires a couple of things. One, patience, because you can do a lot of due diligence and then owners can sell to somebody else. They can take the deal off the table. Like I've seen people, even in franchising resales, right? Candidates investing 3, 6, 9 months of their life to try to negotiate a deal that at the end of the day, all parties cannot agree on. So you have to have a lot of patience. And number two, if it's a business worth anything, you're probably going to be paying a multiple for that business. And I would love to be like the consultant that says to you, hey, start at the beginning and be the one selling it for the multiple versus paying the multiple. So, sure. But depending on your cash flow situation and if you have a great business that's just like has fallen into your lap and you're like, this seems too good to be true. I mean, there's a time and a place for investing in an established business for sale. But the benefits of investing in the franchise are that you're buying down the learning curve of starting a business, right? So you can start from scratch. The business is yours to build, like having a baby versus adopting a teenager. So when you have a baby, you get to help form that baby's personality and understand how they become who they become versus adopting a teenager who comes with a personality and a history that you know nothing of, and then have to try to conform to that and shape that and mold that as you grow. And in business ownership, that may mean overcoming some negative perception of the business in the consumer's mind in that market versus starting from scratch and sharing and creating that, sharing the story of the brand and creating in the consumer the real value. So again, it depends on you as an investor, but I love the story of starting from scratch. You're buying down the learning curve because you're partnering yourself with people who've already figured out how to make money. So as an entrepreneur with an idea, you could spend 3 to 5 years just trying to figure out how to cash flow positively, like who is my customer and what is the price point and how do I source the product and where do I put this business, or, how do I get to the customer? Why are they going to say yes? When they say no, how do I help them say yes? All of those trial and error things, which are basic business knowledge for any business, you have to figure out on your own as an entrepreneur. Well, in a franchise or being a franchisepreneur, you pay a franchise fee and you get access to the ready-made tools, the proven business plan, the training, the ongoing support. So you're not spending time figuring anything out. From day one, you get to execute on the proven business plan, and that leads you to profitability. So the last thing I'll say is, as a franchisepreneur, you could open 3 to 5 locations in the same time that entrepreneur is just trying to figure out how to make money. And in both scenarios, if business ownership is about wealth creation and wealth is time and money, franchisepreneurship wins all day long for the speed to which you can build the scale, because wealth is always created through scale. And then also the time factor that can be bought back, and in some cases can be bought from day one because of the leverage that franchises provide, systems, tools, technology that most entrepreneurs will never have.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are great points. I wonder, so as a franchise consultant, now tell me a little bit about your role, because you don't work for a specific franchise, right? You're not like, oh, I represent X franchise and help people get in that. You're essentially available to anyone thinking about franchise. Did you say franchisepreneurship?
I did.
Am I saying okay? Well,
Yeah.
I want to get that right, but yeah, tell me a little bit about that. Where does your role fit in? Where, if someone's thinking about acquiring a franchise, when do they want to connect with you, and kind of what's the process there?
Are you planning a remodel or construction project? Overwhelmed by the process? Over budget? Extended timelines? Strained relationships? We are all too familiar. At Lark Construction Services, we help homeowners and business owners take control of their construction journey, from reviewing bids and contracts to catching red flags before they become costly mistakes. Our Clarity Audit is a one-on-one expert review of your plans, estimates, or current progress, giving you the peace of mind and a defined action plan to move forward with confidence. Don't let confusion lead to costly errors. Visit larkconstruction.com and schedule your free call today. Lark Construction Services, saving you time, money, and stress.
Excellent question. So, as a franchise consultant, yes, I work with you at any step of the process. If you're like just curious, if you're like, hey, what does it cost, Kim? I don't know if I qualify. Or, hey, look, I just lost my job yesterday. I don't want to put myself back into that frying pan. Like, help me create options. And even though in some cases you may need to go back to your corporate job while you're ramping the business, franchisepreneurship allows for that. Again, where entrepreneurship really doesn't, because you have to be in it full time in order to make it go. But with the right franchise system that affords that leverage, owners can come in as what we call semi-active from day one, which means you have a brand, probably a location type franchise as well. You have a general manager who's in the business, and you come in as the CEO working on, and that would allow you to still maintain that corporate job during the ramp up of the business. So I meet people in those places. I, again, educate. The first thing I do with everybody that I meet is help them understand what their money buys. So it's too long of a conversation to do right here, but know that if you are curious about franchising, I know the number one reason you're coming is money. The number one reason you're leaving without a business is money. I've been doing this for 23 years. So we are going to talk about money with real clarity, money in and money out. And then we're going to relate that to your net worth and your cash resources. I'm going to educate you about why different franchisors have net worth requirements, what the liquidity requirements are. I'm going to bring in lenders for you so you don't have to use all of your own capital if you don't want, and you may qualify for a business that's more expensive than what you think you can afford, right? Once we bring in lenders who help franchisees have the funding that they need. So my role is in putting together the model. You don't have to come to me when you know what the business is. I do have the relationships. Really, that's what you get in a good, experienced franchise consultant. The first thing you get is a knowledge of the process. So I can be the leader and help you know that you're asking the right questions and talking to the right people and getting the financing and how do I do a legal review and all of the things. There's a lot of people out there, Jason, who explore franchises, but they never have the confidence in the process they went through. So it just doesn't end. Like they never say yes, but they never really say no. It just sort of like peters out, right? Yeah, because they weren't able to make a committed decision because they didn't feel confident that they knew what they needed to know. And that's where I can really lend that leadership to the process. These are the steps. This is what you do. This is how you think. These are the questions to ask. And this is kind of the cadence that this process should move through. But then I also am going to bring you the ideas to the question you asked me. So do I work with every franchisor out there? No. Would you want me to? No. So there's about 3,500 franchises on the market at any one time. Less than 1,000 of them have more than 100 units. So if you step back and think, what is a franchise and what's the real value for me as an investor? So a franchise is a consumer brand that's being curated or created by the visionary, which is the founding corporate organization, the franchisor. And they're using other people's time and money to build the brand. Okay, so they're going to share with us what experience we want our customers to have. So let's pick specifically Chick-fil-A, because most people know what Chick-fil-A means. We're not even standing in a Chick-fil-A store. We know how we're going to be greeted. We know what it smells like. We know how the process is going to go. Why? because they have a proven brand. As consumers, why do we love proven brands? Because we know what to expect. So how does a franchisor create a consistent consumer experience across thousands of locations when each location is independently owned and operated? By very strong values and culture and leadership and training and execution over year, over year, over year. So when you're partnering with a franchisor, you want to find a franchisor that understands that. Now, this may sound like rudimentary, but sometimes the simplest things in life are the things that people overlook, including franchisors. So not all franchisors are created equal. Not all franchisors are worth your hard-earned life savings. You come to an experienced franchise consultant because I've been around this industry for 23 years and I know who's real and who's not, who's ready for your hard-earned life saving and who still needs to prove to me and who's absolutely not. And I'm going to teach you. You're not going to take my word for it. I'm going to teach you what I know so you can make the decision for yourself. Because we're all different types of investors. Sometimes people want to be on the jagged edge and they want to be part of that emerging trendy brand. And sometimes people are like, I don't want that. That scares the heck out of me. I need something that's like a blue chip stock. And I'm going to help you understand what kind of investor you are and then match opportunity to you. So that's why you use a franchise consultant, for the leadership of the process and then to align you to the right franchise opportunities for you. And the last thing I'll say on that, Jason, because I probably talked too much, is the business is a vehicle. So there's a lot of people out there that think, ooh, I want to own a franchise, and they love the taste of a product. I want to own that one. Or I love that workout. I want to own that gym. Or, hey, my community doesn't have a UPS store, so I want to bring that to market. So when you come to me, I'm never going to poo-poo your ideas. I might cringe a little bit, but I won't poo-poo your idea. But here's what I'm going to teach you. A franchise is an investment vehicle. It's not a hobby. It's not a passion. And we're not trying to fill a void in the community. Those are not the attributes that make for a successful business for you. What makes for a successful business for you is you understanding your goals personally, professionally, and financially. The owner that you want to be when you walk into that business or when you work from home, how you dress, who you interact with and who you don't interact with. So we together are going to identify all of these key attributes. I know what they need to be. And we're going to level the field on the passion, the play, and I love the product. And listen, at the end of the day, if all of the attributes line up and the cherry on top of the sundae we build happens to be that business you were massively in love with, awesome. But what most investors realize through me is it's better to leave your passion, and your business, because when your business gets hard, and it will, let's be real, you lose your passion. Right? You love the taste of that smoothie, but when you have to step in because your employee didn't show up, you're going to hate that smoothie. So we're going to have these kinds of conversations so you can really think about what you're doing and align the investment and the goals of this investment to your goals, because that's where you're going to find passion and time and money freedom.
Yeah. Such a great point. Such a great, kind of, thought process for people to come through. I think that's probably particularly true in the franchise space, because you're not really buying something to mold into your vision or around your personality or whatever. You really are needing to kind of fit into an already established, sort of well-oiled machine is really what you're trying to do. So what I'm hearing is it probably makes sense, if someone's considering something like this, to connect with you as early in the process as possible so that they can actually get the guidance that you would provide for selection of the appropriate franchise for them. Like if they're already under contract for what, Chick-fil-A, whatever it is, some sort of franchise, and then they come to you and you're like, I would never recommend that particular franchisor. Like, that's kind of that's going to be a hard pill to swallow probably. And they may have already wasted time and money if that's the case. So I think really such valuable points about, kind of treating this truly as an investment, but also for people listening, like the reason you would, or the time frame for which they should come to you is really at the idea stage. It sounds like to me, it's like I'm thinking about buying a business, or I'm thinking about investing in some alternative investment. I should talk to someone about that. And so if franchises are on that list, or maybe they're not, and you're just curious, like that's the time to come talk to you, is early in the process. Would you agree?
100%. And the one thing I didn't say is my services are free for you. You never pay me any money, because people will be like, I don't want to, waste your time. And, I don't know if I can afford you. I'm paid like a recruiter. So on the other side, really good franchisors know that they need the right franchisees to lift their brand. So they're not opening their email and looking at organically who emailed in overnight, and then not knowing who's serious, who's qualified, who they're looking for, who lives in a market that's open and viable for them. They come to consulting groups and say, you find the people. Here's who we're looking for. Here's what we're about. So I've spent 23 years with these people. When we get together, which we do twice a year, it's like a college reunion. Speaking of UNH, it's like a college reunion, because for many of these franchisors, I've been with them for 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, I'm very tenured as a franchise consultant. I never knew this business would be the thing for me, but it just is I am inspired every single day to help people. I love what I do. I believe in what I do. I know the power to help, franchisors grow their brands with better quality franchisees, and to help franchisees invest in the best franchisors out there. And again, companies that are aligned to their culture and their goals. And one thing you said, Jason, I said, oh, that's a really good point. So I'll say this about myself. I'm a pretty independent person, right? And I was an entrepreneur before I became a franchise consultant. And as a franchise consultant, I'm really a franchisepreneur. I bought into a system. I pay royalties. I'm trained by a corporate organization. So I'm a small business owner, just like I'm going to help you become. So I live the life that you live. And there are some franchise organizations culturally where every I is dotted and every T is crossed, and it's our way or the highway. I would die in that environment. I'm just too entrepreneurial. So I found a system that when I joined, it was only 2 or 3 years old, and they gave me enough guidance, but left me a lot of freedom to make what I do my own. I was the first franchise consultant to ever have social media. So I was the first franchise consultant to host live events. I used to travel all over the country before I had social media, because I love an audience, and I was not afraid to get on a stage and find people who wanted to listen to me talk. And so no one told me to do that. They told me I had to go find people who wanted to explore franchises. So, but I work sometimes with geologists when the oil and gas market goes down, or, engineers who typically are more risk averse personalities. And so the business I got into would scare them away. But a business like Supercuts, that's 3,000 units strong, that's 30 years of track record, where every I is dotted and every T is crossed, and they are going to tell you exactly how to do everything. It meets that investor in their comfort zone. So this is another reason that an experienced franchise consultant can really help you, because even in a certain category, of franchises, you can have, I know the culture, and you can have the emerging brand that is a little more nimble, and you can have a more thought out brand. You can have just a really big corporate feel, and you could have a more entrepreneurial feel. And that's very important to your satisfaction and your ability to personally and professionally grow as an owner in your franchises, that you're aligned to a culture that speaks to you. So that was a great point to bring out. I had to just cement that one.
Yeah, sure. The culture piece is something I don't know that I necessarily would have thought about. And I think that's another really great argument to use, a consultant like yourself in terms of trying to pick which one. It's funny, I keep having this this pop into my head, but Shaquille O'Neal, you'll see these things where it's like, oh, he owns 255 guys and 100 car washes and all that. And so, I mean, I think it points to the strength of that system that you're talking about. And I don't know if you work with five guys. I don't even know if it's true what I see about him, but I know that that's a large part of his investment portfolio is businesses. We know him as a basketball player and now an analyst on TV and things like that. He's pretty famous, big personality, but at this point, he's not the person that's going into Five Guys if someone calls out sick, right? Like, you're never going to go in there and see Shaquille O'Neal behind the counter, but he's doing that to grow his wealth, sort of expand himself outside of what his sort of main employment is, which is at this point being an NBA analyst. I think that he pops into my mind when I think about franchises, just because I think that's sort of famously said about him a lot. But I wanted to kind of transition now into talk into that alternative investment space that you talked about being introduced to, which I believe business acquisition is a part of. I really hate the term alternative investments, because when you say it, it means real estate, businesses, like the things that are literally around us all the time. Like, they're not actually alternative. Like, the fact is, I see way more real estate and businesses around me than I do Google or Apple. Like, they're in one place. Like, it's just kind of an interesting way to look at it. Like, real estate.
Well, we're against the grain. I think that's why it's an alternative. Sorry to interrupt you. I think that's why, like, it's not a mainstream idea, right? Owning a business, right, investing in real estate. These are not things that the masses do. That's why I believe it's just the alternative view, right? Just like holistic medicine is an alternative medicine. It's just a different way to achieve a goal. And the world teaches us, graduate from college, get a job, put your money in your 401k and save it for future tax so you can pay higher tax in the future, right? Don't have access to it now. They don't teach us to move our money. I'm not teaching my kids that. That model doesn't even work, right? Yeah. All the people I work with are like, either hate the job that they're in, they do it just because they have bills to pay and responsibilities to, families, or they worry every single day about being the next job layoff. There's no security there. But when you come here and I can teach you, and I'm also a mindset coach, once you buy the franchise, I can teach you how to be successful, then you really understand how to own this and fully own it and feel in control of it. So there's no economy that will take Kim Daly down. Like, my mindset, I understand, like, do economies make my business easier or harder? Sure. But it's just a new problem to solve in my business. It's not the end of Kim Daly, nor will it ever be, right? And you can make that a true statement about any business. And if you challenge me, I dare you to, because I will show you how success in a business is a mindset strategy, not an actual strategy. So I think that it's the mindset of the alternative investor that makes it alternative versus the mainstream way, which is what I already explained, which again, it's antiquated. Who does that work for today? Yeah. Can you even retire with enough money? I mean, Social Security, seriously?
Yeah. I think it's 100%. It's an outdated system. And unfortunately, calling real estate and businesses and this other stuff alternative investments almost makes it so people don't. It's almost like it's exclusionary and sort of keeping people away from it, which is very frustrating. But I wanted you to sort of tell us a little bit about, you said you were introduced to that world. I want to say 2018, 2019, something like that, from one of your clients. I mean, what shifts did you make to change, whether it's mindset or tactical approach to, getting more into alternative investing?
Okay, great question. So I was doing what I was taught, right? So here, I've always been a business owner. When I was 25, I started my first company and I never looked back. I'm 53. So like, I've been self-employed my entire life. And in the last 23 years as a franchisepreneur instead of an entrepreneur. So, but here I was maximizing my self-employed pension plan at whatever it was, 62 grand a year. So I have this multi-million-dollar business and then the government tells me this is what you can save. So then I had an overflow. What do I do with this money? So I would put it in the stock market. I had a financial guy who I'd meet with once a year, and I had a little life insurance policy, like all the things that you traditionally do. I took no responsibility for my financial future. I'd watch my net worth grow. I'd watch it go down, like all the things. And am I going to have enough? I don't know. I certainly make enough money to have enough, but am I doing the right things? So when I met this guy who was fully owning his his net worth and his financial future. And I had just never met anybody. Like, my world did not consist of people like that. And it was so mind blowing to me that I was like, I have to learn more. So I started listening to podcasts. It's actually how I decided to become a guest on these shows, because I started listening. I started binging. So I learned about infinite banking. So as luck would have it, somebody who's really big in infinite banking found me when I was interested in learning about infinite banking. And next thing you know, Kim has 2 banks of Daily. And so I've got 2 big banks that I can put all of my money in and then use that money to deploy it into these cash flowing assets. So I've won and lost, won more than I've lost, but you do have to be willing to take some losses. I think, I've learned a lot in the 4 years about, especially in multifamily syndication, people who've been around in the recession of 2008 or better people to be partnered with than people who hadn't, because when the interest rates went sky high, a couple of my real syndications stopped paying dividends and one of them just sold. And I just lost $83,000 when they did that. So is that fun? No. Am I going to die? No, right? I'm never out over my skis with my investment because I have 2 businesses that produce all the cash flow that I need. This passive investing I do it's again, to create that extra velocity. So that then the passive income coming in allows me to make more investments and to move faster. And then also, pay for things like college with cash flow versus savings. And so I still have that self-employed pension plan thing. I just never put any more money into it. I did siphon most of my money out of the stock market because that was like money I could use right now and I had more control over it. And so that's how I've done it. Again, I've won, I've lost. I've gone to alternative investing conferences and met people, and I met some amazing people in oil and gas, and I know it's super risky. And the bank was like, even the most ridiculous experience of my life, they were controlling my money. They would not let me wire the money to this oil and gas company. And that was so eye-opening to why we need infinite banking policies, because I'm like, who owns this money? Yes, my money is in your bank, but you can't tell me what to do with my money. And that oil and gas investment has been an amazing one. If you're a high W-2 earner, which, as a 1099, consultant, basically, I'm a high W-2 earner for tax reasons. I needed a write-off, and that oil and gas is amazing write-off. Like, you legit, the first year you invest, you can write off that oil rig. And so, and then it just continues to produce some really nice quarterly dividends for me. And it's an investment I'll continue to make over and over. But yeah, that's my story. It's really fun too. It's a fun story because, and I think as a woman, I take a lot of pride in this. I think investing is often like left to like the men and the household, and like, and like, I'm not like, I love business cash flowing returns, and my future will definitely be more in the business cash flowing returns than in like, I'm not about crypto. I do have a crypto mining company with some people who sucked me into that, and I put a lot of money into that. And they're like, no, we're going to 10x your money, Kim, one day. I'm like, yeah, one day. But I'm like, what about 2 days? So that's out there doing its thing. But like, I have zero interest in crypto. So, but when a franchisor actually came to me, and this is how it works by the law of attraction, I was looking for places to put money. I had these 2 banks. I wanted to deploy the money. I'd never been approached by a franchise company ever to become an investor. But when I had the money and I was looking, it's like the law of attraction. That opportunity fell into my lap. And that one business cash flowing dividend is the one that retired me. I mean, I get a little bit from all these other ones that adds up, $15,000, $20,000 a month. But that other one is an awesome, awesome investment on a quarterly basis. The returns are more than most people make in a W-2 salary in a year or 2 years. So, but it was because I had $1 million in cash flow to deploy that I was able to go in at such a big level and to receive this bountiful, ROI on that. So, I think business cash flowing returns for me are where it's what I know. It's if I can be on your board and invest in your company and like help guide that business, I'm so well suited to that. But I definitely have oil, gas, multifamily, self-storage, the crypto mining thing. So I'm a little bit diversified in that whole portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's it just makes a lot of sense, right? It's like some of them are going to win, some of them are going to lose, and that's okay. And the funny thing is like, that's also happening in your 401k and your stock market, like it's happening in every investment you make. It's just people don't notice because they can't touch it, or they don't, they've got an advisor, a financial advisor that's taking care of their money for them. Like, they're not noticing that it's losing money in some capacity here and there. So I think it's just developing an understanding of what your options are, what the opportunities are. And then, as you said right in the beginning, is like creating a base cash flow source, whether that's you own a business, your job, whatever it is, and then deploying that money into things that are going to over time set you up for financial freedom. And that's exactly the recipe. Like, it's not actually that hard, it's not complicated. It is hard at times to kind of get there. You've got to work hard. You have to make some sacrifices in the beginning, but like at the end of the day, then you get yourself into places like you just talked about, and you can have these businesses that are, throwing off great cash flow. And there's ways to invest in businesses without actually owning or operating the business or anything else. There's independent sponsors that are buying businesses and running them, and the returns on those are typically very, very good. I mean, it's just knowing that these things are out there, I think, is just so important. So I appreciate, kind of explaining what you have today and all of the detail that you did. I want to shift gears and make sure I have time to ask you, the questions I ask every guest. And the first one is really just based on the name of the show being Know Your Why. And so I do like to ask every guest, what is your why? You've had so much success, so much kind of interesting perspective here in franchising and business world and in alternative investing. What kind of is driving you at this point, Kim?
I love it, Jason. So I'm super clear on two things. I am Miss Independent since the time I was born. And when I was 15 years old, I told my dad I wanted to be a motivational speaker. So my why at 53 is I'm literally living my dreams. I am 100% in control of my time and my financial future as Miss Independent, running my own businesses and as an alternative investor. But I wake up every day to inspire other people's dreams. And that's what gets me out of bed and makes me want to get better and better, because the better that I get, the more I can serve. When I became an alternative investor and it changed my life, it helps me help all of my candidates who are leaving W-2 and 401ks and maybe even using their 401k to fund their franchise, because we can do that without creating a taxable event in this world. And their minds are like, in the beginning, it's like this fear, like I was taught never to touch. And I'm like, we're going to undo what you were taught, right? Like, you don't have to, but just go with me through the conversation, because those thoughts really, are they getting you where you want to be? Right. And when they start to loosen up their grip on everything they thought was going to be the way their life is going to go, and then they realize there's so much more control over here, even though the world has taught us that business ownership and all this is scary. The reality is that's a lie. This is where full control and passion and time freedom and wealth are actually created, but you have to do it smart. And that's why you work with someone like me who can guide and help you. So that's my why.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that's great. And on that note, when people hear this and they want to connect, what is the best way for them to reach out to you?
Okay, so please go to the Daily Coach. That's DALY, thedailycoach.com, because you can learn all about everything that I have going on. I am across all the socials. I have over 1,000 videos on Kim Daly TV on YouTube. But if you go to thedailycoach.com, you can there's free courses on franchising. There's also free mindset coaches, because we didn't talk today about me being the mindset coach, but I don't just help people get into a business, because that's saying yes the first time. But the second yes is the daily yes is showing up for your business with the right mindset that drives success. And so that's my Z Suite. That's my coaching platform. So you can see all of that, receive, take a free course, and then reach out to me, get over to my YouTube channel. Everything right there at thedailycoach.com.
Fantastic. We'll get that in the show notes, definitely, so people can connect. Kim, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This has been amazing. Like I said, we haven't talked about franchises on the podcast before, so this is super cool. I learned a lot. It's a very exciting space, and I really appreciate your mindset-based approach to these sort of things, because I do think that's really the key to success. So thank you so much for being here and sharing everything that you did.
My sincere pleasure. You asked great questions. You made it easy. Thanks, Jason.
Appreciate that. Folks listening, make sure you connect with Kim. Please like, rate, and review the show so we can continue to get more great guests. And as always, thank you so much for listening.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?